It's Thomas Johnson again, grad student at Elizabeth City State University. And ultimately, I'll be here with a special guest today. Would he kindly mind introducing himself? He's trying to see how much I know about Indian mathematics throughout history and its various advancements in the mathematics that have ultimately been developed in India. And so he's trying, he's trying to get me to learn some things, but I think I already beat him to the punch because at the end of this video, you'll see me teaching him a few things. Well, thank you, Latron. I appreciate that you took the time to properly introduce yourself. But ultimately, as we're going through this lesson, I want you to know that it's okay if you don't know certain facts. The point is to learn. And so I want to start off by basically introducing you to the starting point. So ultimately, mathematics in India, it started off with the ancient civilization in the Indus River Valley, and that ultimately continued on, and you can see where it was developing parallel to other ancient civilizations at that time. And ultimately, there were quite a few advancements that took place just over the context of history within mathematics in the context of India, and they made some significant advancements, but ultimately, due to the way in which the world developed and events ultimately transpired, some of these great achievements weren't necessarily popularized well within the grander scheme of what was going on in the public eye of the world. All right, Thomas, I see your point, and of course, Indian mathematics it clearly developed some significant achievements that were ultimately overlooked. But also, I hope you realize that there were multiple periods that took place, such as the Vedic period and the Chan period, that allowed for various formations of ideas to come forth, and where multiple giants of mathematics, such as Bhaskara the first, Bhaskara the second, and other giants, such as Madhava and Aryabhata, ultimately came forward and basically guided through the entirety of the development of mathematics within the domain of India, and allowed it to grow forward. And ultimately, well, thank you, Latron, for your concerns, but I was ultimately getting to that. So, as far back as ancient River Valley civilization, the ancient Indus River Valley civilization, they discovered that the population that was living there at the time had actually constructed and utilized rulers, which made for wonderful advancements within infrastructure, not to mention the other uses of a ruler that could just come through everyday events. And so ultimately, with the Indus Valley civilization, we find that during those times, they even made advances within the mathematical topics of. Now, before you even continue forward, Thomas, let me just say that what you're trying to say is algebra, calculus, geometry, and astronomy. Now, hands down, I know I'm correct. Well, Latron, I would say that you were say it thought. If any other participants wish to participate, this is your time now to suggest your answers. So we're basically looking at fields of mathematics which they were able to push advancements forward. So this is the part where you pause the video and you can resume when you have your answers. So Please take your time. If your answers included combinatorics, trigonometry, geometry, algebra, arithmetic, or astronomy in the context of mathematics, then you have made an excellent choice for your answers. And I congratulate you on your studies and being able to, and ultimately taking the effort to learn about the growth of mathematics in the context of India. I may have been slightly off with my answers. But ultimately, Thomas, I think it's important for you to establish that during the Vedic period, the mathematics was stored in religious works, which was significant at the time because also before the Vedic period, the mathematics was passed on to the next generation through verbal communication and verbal stories and verbal telling of the context and the problems and relevant information. The Vedic period was the first time it had been inscribed in text that could be passed down through generation and through generation. And ultimately, after the Vedic period, we saw the emergence of mathematical giants such as Mahavira, and ultimately he deduced the formula for combinations. And so I think you might have skimmed over quite a bit, Thomas, as you've been going over this. And so you can't really throw that to the wind. And there are other mathematicians that were around at that time and succeeding Mahavir, and ultimately further carrying on the advancement and development of mathematics in the context of India. So I think, Thomas, that you need to go back to your notes and re-emphasize certain points that you have not yet made. I'm sure Latron would enjoy me going forward on basically the various endeavors of Varahamihira and other mathematicians, especially since Varahamihira gave us such wonderful trig identities, such as 1 minus cosine theta over 2 equals sine squared theta, and sine theta equals cosine open parentheses pi over 2 minus theta. And there's literally so much content we can cover, but sadly we're limited on time. And so consider leagues were key to ultimately bringing the advancements of Indian mathematics within India to the state that it was within their time periods, and then advancing this overall significance of the development of Indian mathematics and the history of mathematics itself, and also the importance that such scholars as Madhava would place within the context of India and its overall development and field of mathematics, especially when considering the Kerala School of Mathematics and its status today within Indian culture, heritage, and overall prominence in the field of mathematics. But we should also acknowledge for conducting mathematics in each one of our endeavors. Ultimately, I do believe that what you're suggesting is Madhava's estimation of pi, which was pretty much which was pretty much on point until you got around to the 11th digit, which was extraordinarily accurate in the context of his time, and yeah, it's pretty well acknowledged, and plus for his contribution in basically being the originator of the Kerala School of Mathematics and Astronomy in India. Yeah, though I had to admit that hint on Madhava. Yeah, it definitely helped lead me to the answer. Well, thank you for that, for your statement, Latron, on Madhava and his significance. But actually, over the course of centuries, to eventually what would be around 1200 CE, when after it had finally been transmitted to to Arabic society and then passed on to the Europeans, the Hindu Arabic number system had been developed for quite some time, and so was developing in India. Over time, it was found that it included the characters we know for 1 through 9 today. And not only that, but after the discovery of the Bakshali manuscript, although it could have been in better condition, there was possible evidence of zero being a part of, and traces history back to India and the strong and inquisitive mathematical culture that developed it. And thanks to the Hindu Arabic system, we can do all these complex computations because the symbology involved and the symbology and structure involved are simple and straightforward. And honestly, when it finally made it to Europe, it took quite a bit of time before it was fully accepted. But ultimately, we can demonstrate the Hindu Arabic number system, especially since the Hindu Arabic number system gave us the value for zero, which is a placeholder that allows us to write out such huge values without misinterpretations or misconceptions of what was being written. I hope that this spiel didn't pour too much on you, Patron. Well, I do say you must have switched up the answers because my answer was on point. But I do have to say that we cannot disregard the significance of the Hindu Arabic number system, as it's allowed basically for it's allowed for a lot of efficiency and the mathematics that we're studying, that you, Thomas, are studying in university today. And it's just thanks to the developments within Indian mathematics that we have the Hindu Arabic number system, and also thanks to the contributions of Arabic society and their input to mathematics that we have into Arabic number system. But in the context of this video, it's only right we show appreciation for the developments in Indian mathematics that allow for this progression in the first place and allow us to have the Hindu Arabic number system. And just like the fortune of having it, just a fortunate